What's happening in Coachella Valley? This is Craig Campbell for CoachellaValley.com, and it's an early Friday morning, and we have a special show for you guys today. It is the Greater Palm Springs Business Insider with my friend Bob Mara, Mara Intelligence, Market Intelligence, and this is really going to be a special show today. We're streaming via Facebook, Bob, and we're also talking to the Leadership Coachella Valley class. They're having a session today, economic drivers all day long, and they're joining us via Zoom. So we got some incredible things happening, great technology. Hey, guys, it's going to be 86 degrees today. It's warming up. And what a great segue to talk about the real estate market here. And that's what we're going to be talking about, both commercial and residential, and some of the trends that are happening. And like I said, no better person than Bob to talk about it. So how's it going, Bob? What's going on?
Hey, Craig, good. Doing great. Nice, beautiful Friday we've got going here. Maybe a great weekend coming up. Play a little golf. Craig, you'll be out showing people what's happening out there. Looking forward to it. But
something really exciting. Oh, I'm sorry. We got, I'm going to bring in Sean in just a second. He's the chair of the Leadership Coachella Valley this year, and he's doing all of the engineering for us behind the scenes. And he was talking a little bit earlier about all the great things we've been able to do together, Desert Sands, and really something super exciting, Bob, before we get into the show, is football's back tonight. Going to be on Shadow Hill's sideline, actually streaming a little bit and showing Coachella Valley that we have contact football. It is happening throughout Desert Sands Unified School District. I believe that matchup is La Quinta versus Shadow Hills. Pretty exciting. And we're in tier red. Restaurants are opening up. Things are happening here in the Coachella Valley. But we're going to talk about real estate specifically, and some of the great things are happening. $500,000 median price for the Coachella Valley. First time in February, we eclipsed that mark. Over $800 and some thousand in Palm Springs, and prices are going up. So, talk to me a little bit about the residential market. Have a couple questions here already. I'm just going to start right off. What is going on with the existing market, especially residential home market?
Well, yeah, Craig, it's certainly an interesting thing that we can consider a number of factors that happen. So we have a pandemic come along. We have a stay-at-home order almost a year ago today, and then things go nuts with people wanting to leave urban areas, and we read about it. I'm sure everyone that's watching this read something. Maybe it was in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, whatever. And then, we couldn't help wonder, will it happen here? Will people from LA and San Diego and San Francisco, will we see that impact? Will there be telecommuters? We saw Facebook and Google announcing that their employees could work from home for a year out, and then they extended it. So what would be the impact here? And so I think a combination of those factors happened, and a complete anomaly to what you would expect in in a pandemic that precipitated a clear-cut official recession was that existing housing sales went nuts. Okay, I hate to use such a technical term, but
technical.
Anything that was up for sale sold. And it was swift, and then it became an extreme anomaly because so much was happening in the summer. And so people came in and bought homes. The good old factors of supply and demand economics held true, so that we had less and less inventory available. Prices got higher. And so we saw...
I'm sorry, Bob. I'm just going to step on you there for just a second. But, supply and demand is so important. A lot of times, we've had prices increase, but maybe that's because we do have such a small supply. 900 homes up for sale currently listed is not very many. So when you think about perhaps people coming from San Diego or Riverside or Los Angeles out of urban into where we are, open area, doesn't take very many people. I mean, if you just had 500 people come from Los Angeles, they would take half of our inventory. So that just gives you kind of perspective on it doesn't take much to drive the housing market with such low inventory.
Right. And so a typical inventory for normal years is in the 3,000 range, right? You track throughout the year. We saw this on a chart. We would see in the some years we would say, wow, the inventory is really low. It's really tracking low, 2,500 homes, 2,000 homes available. And this is a combination of condo/townhomes homes in what we call the attached category, and then the single family detached home, yard, etc. Combined. So 900 homes at the beginning of March. Who know? I didn't check lately, but I think it's hovering in the same number. And so there too many buyers chasing too few homes. And so what we've been seeing is incredibly fast sales of homes, even marginal product that's out there selling. People are coming in, refurbishing it. So as you alluded to also, Craig, and we've talked about this a number of times, this is real demand. These are people that are coming in a lot of times, in many cases, especially on the high end, we're seeing full cash deals. And we're seeing bidding wars on real nice homes. If a house goes up in PGA West on the Palmer Private and it's a beautiful home and it's up and running, they'll sell that thing in a week at the most, and they'll have multiple offers, and then someone will come in with the highest bid, and it'll be cash. And so that's been the trend. Although I will say that in December, January, and February, things have leveled off simply from a median price point, and also in terms of number of sales. So we are seeing some leveling off. I attribute that to people being a little bit smarter. Maybe demand is not as robust right now as people are getting back to work, and maybe looking at their lives in a more normal fashion. And so they're not thinking about this as much coming out to our market. But look, we saw an incredible amount of sales. It's been great. If you talk to people like I do every day in the different sectors throughout the economy, and this is why I think this is an important topic for an economic drivers discussion for Leadership Coachella Valley, is that think of all these people. I can tell you, I know jewelers on El Paseo, restaurants in different parts of the region who said they've been seeing since the summer people that never have been here, and people that bought a house and really didn't know much about the desert. So I love this new element. So new people are coming in. It tracks all the way through. And as things reopen, we're going to see a lot of these people, spending money throughout the economy to, fit their homes the way they want to go out and now partake in our restaurants. So this is a huge economic driver. So, we don't want to beat to death the numbers here, but I mean, the point is, last year, 22% rise from February to February. Okay, so let's be clear. And there are some realtors in the group, I think, at least one, and a banker or two. So want to make sure that we understand that the median price is a snapshot of a given month, right? It doesn't represent, it's not the full representation of what happened in the market, but it's the median, the midway point between the high and low that's sold on a given month. So there are going to be fluctuations from month to month. But look at the trend. So 22% difference between February 2019 and February 2020, one of the worst years in the history of the United States in terms of economic activity and so forth. So there it is. And so then the question is, what happens next? I think we need to look at that.
So, Sean, I see I've got Sean Webb doing the engineering here, and also you're the host for Leadership Coachella Valley. How are you doing? Come on in for a second.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for allowing Leadership Coachella Valley to be part of this day. And I think it's awesome that you guys do this show weekly for the people in the Coachella Valley. There was a question that came up. It's actually not from one of our students, but I know, Craig, you get tons of questions all the time, but it definitely goes along with what we're talking about here. And I'm going to bring it up here, and I'll read it off. It says, only 3,000 homes for sale in San Diego County. 6,000 is the normal number that they typically have. You talked a little bit about our inventory. Maybe if you could touch upon that a little bit more, Bob, in regards to inventory.
Well, yes, I think we did talk about it a little bit. So a typical number is anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 in the Coachella Valley over the last decade. So we look at that, and then we see we're at a third of it. And then another thing that realtors will use to characterize inventory is months of sales. How long it would take to sell all the inventory if it stayed the same. And right now, we're at 1 month. So we could sell that inventory based on the absorption rate of homes that are put up for sale and then subsequently sold. We have about 1 month supply. So I think that the same thing would be going on in those markets that are the person who asked the question. I think we're seeing it in multiple parts of Southern California, but especially in more of the suburban areas, more rural areas. Same thing, Sacramento. They're seeing the outflux of people from San Francisco. And so, we've had this window of time. And then I think we're going to see things settle down. We're already seeing it again, December, January, February, slowing. And so the real question is, what next?
Some of the economic drivers, obviously with low interest rates, in addition to the pandemic, has caused housing to be much more affordable. We are seeing some rise in rates currently in mortgage rates, which might have an impact going forward as well. So we're just seeing almost perfect conditions for real estate here in the Coachella Valley. And we have such small inventory. It kind of begs the question, Bob, about new housing inventory and what's on the horizon for builders. Are builders, do they have things in line right now? Are they behind? Are they ahead? Are we going to have oversupply? What does the current new housing market look like?
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, that's a great, important one to consider. And so what and I talk to developers all the time. And so what they've all told me the same story. Basically, they were caught flat-footed in 2020, right? And so 2019 was a really good year for the regional economy, the national economy, super low unemployment. And so they were doing projects. They were maybe taking down some space up in North Palm Desert, where there was a lot going, a lot of infill, incredible townhomes and condos being built in Palm Springs and throughout the region. And so what we're seeing is that they were flat-footed. And when you're flat-footed as a home builder, and I say flat-footed relatively, they weren't sitting around thinking, I'm not going to build anything at all, but they weren't expecting that you pull a permit and you'll sell a house. And so it takes a while. So we have to go through the entitlement process. And I know some leadership Coachella Valley students in this class are involved in that in various ways. And so that if you just say, okay, let's take University Village in North Palm Desert off of Cook. There are some incredible number of lots that are available to be developed. And there's a company called BlackRock, one of the nation's largest venture funds, that owns a big chunk of that land. And so they have a project in the mix right now, which would eventually provide 1,000 or so homes. And so the grading has started. But again, even for someone with all the resources they need to put the team together, to do the engineering, to get things into the cities through the Architecture Review Commission, through the Planning Commission, they get feedback, they need to make changes. Sometimes zoning needs to be changed. Takes a while. So that's what's happened. And so they were caught flat-footed. That's a story. And then the next step is how much is coming online. And I'm saying that we will have thousands of new homes available for purchase coming into the next several months. And so that's good for everything. And so I think it's another element where we'll see some leveling off, because the supply is now going up. I think there are people out there that certainly would want to buy a new home in the Coachella Valley. And so we'll see. I think that will have a little bit of a leveling effect on price. So it's not going to be 22% rise again from this year to the next, in part because of new home inventory, which is critical. And think about it too. Everything we're talking about today, and I think any of our colleagues that will be speaking, we have to be thinking about jobs too, right? And so where are the jobs? And so if home builders are up and sticks and bricks are going, and new developments are happening, it engages an entire ecosystem, so to speak, of employees, including all throughout the services chain, all the way to title and insurance, and then the workers on site. So great thing, big economic driver, heating up. And as we saw when I started doing this real intensely back in the mid 2000s, we used to have just some independent local builders that did a lot of the new home building construction. And then all of a sudden, all you had to do is drive down I-10 and you would see billboard after billboard of the nation's largest, we call the public builders, publicly traded companies, Lennar, D.R. Horton, Pulte, and so forth. And they entered the market. It's happening again.
Hey, I was also, lumber prices. We're seeing a lot of big increase in actual pricing to build houses. I would assume that could translate into higher prices overall, even for existing houses. just because of that factor, because it's costing more to actually build that house.
Absolutely right, and it's not just lumber. It's the entire supply chain is both challenged from a movement of goods and services, which puts inflationary pressure on those prices, but also just from a sourcing and so forth. So we did see this before in the run up before the Great Recession in terms of the increasing cost of housing. So that will follow through. The question is, can builders get those numbers and make things pencil when they're competing against a limited amount of existing inventory? So again, we need to see real demand. And so will the coastal communities, will the San Francisco people, will the people from other urban areas, Seattle, of course, and Portland are always mentioned when I talk to realtors and home builders, will that demand continue so that they can push those prices over to those folks? An important part of that is that we have a low inflation, low interest rate environment, which is probably going to continue through the rest of this year and into 2022, if all predictions and major organizations like the Federal Reserve are going to follow through with that. So that will help have a lessened impact of those raw material costs, but still it's there. So there's a limit for everybody, right? There's a limit for local people to buy, to sell and then buy a new place and change or step up. Or just move into new, and then people from outside. So, really will be interesting to see how this all shakes out, Craig.
If you guys are just tuning in, I'm Craig Campbell for CoachellaValley.com, and we are also speaking with Bob Mara of MaraIntel.com, and we are talking about economic drivers, specifically real estate, residential, and commercial. And if you guys have any questions, make sure that you put them in the comments, and we are streaming live via Facebook. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we appreciate that. Make sure you share it with your friends. You can stream this to any of your favorite streaming device. So I've got Sean Webb on the bottom here. What's going on, Sean? Oh, I can't hear you. Got to unmute yourself.
You figure I've been doing this every day for the last year. I'd be able not to do that. But I'll tell you, we've got a question from Leadership Coachella Valley. One of the students in the class is actually the DSTA union president, Trina Gonzalez-Alisi. And her question is, what kinds of families are you seeing move to the area? We are seeing a decline in enrollment in our school districts. So it seems that families with young children are not attracted to the Coachella Valley. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Fantastic question. It's always there. And I think what we're seeing in general is we're seeing most of these sales that are a big portion of the sales that are driving existing home sales and pushing the prices up are on the high end, 600,000 and above. And so that does not bode well in terms of for local families and others that want to come here to even try it. And so we're seeing so many of these sales going to people from Southern California, but so much of it's a secondary market. So in certain ways, and I've been talking about this for years and years, we benefit from a secondary housing market where what we're saying is someone buying a second, third home and they want to have a desert home. We benefit from it because even if they're part-time residents, it helps sell homes. It helps bring new money into the economy in a wide range of ways. But it also pushes out people. And so I think the question really is, are families buying the houses that are out there and bringing their children? And I would say, at least anecdotally, because there's no checkbox for this. There's no way to specifically track it. But I'm working on it in terms of being able to survey who's coming. But I would say generally, it's not families. And it's not people saying, I'm going to bring up I'm going to move from this urban area and come out to the desert and raise a family here. And so that's why I think you're seeing that reflected in that disenrollment level. And I've been looking at that for years, and certainly it brings up a lot of challenges for the school districts when you see these enrollment numbers.
Well, I'm out, Sean, I'm out a lot, out and about, and get an opportunity to meet a lot of people that are actually traveling and coming here and looking for real estate. This is kind of anecdotal, but it doesn't seem like a lot of families that I am speaking with. They are people that are looking for second houses, looking for season, in fact, to come out here and maybe find a little more open area because of the pandemic and those types of things. Some of the activities that we have out here, accessibility, whether that's hiking or golf or so many different things that really make this place a great spot for those with cash. Because remember, a lot of these homes are being purchased for cash. So I would say I don't see a lot of families out here just because it's not that easy to move during pandemic. You've got school sessions and a lot of different things. So there's seasonality that also is a part of playing into this as we speak.
So I've got another question from somebody in the class. This is actually from Brooke Bear, who's the Public Information Officer for the City of Indio. And
Hey,
her
Brooke.
question is the rental market following suit, i.e. for those who want to bank some money by selling high, is there inventory to rent? And then she also has a second question, where can she buy that Monopoly game?
Hey, I'll sell you mine
Greg,
right after the show.
Take the first one. Take the second one. So I think I've heard of this Brooke Berry. I've heard of her, and that the city called Indio, yes, the largest population by a large stretch and most prolific region in terms of new homes over the last decade and in recent years. So great to hear from you, Brooke. Fantastic question. And the answer is that it's not a great rental environment right now. I just simply went and surveyed and looked around, and thank goodness I marked down some of these rents and looked at some rental numbers from the Census Department that does regional summaries. Okay, but the best way to do it is to just go look at apartments for rent, homes for rent, and then fill in the city. And what I've seen is a huge increase in rents. Give some without giving specific examples. If you just look at some of these complexes that have been built in Palm Desert in recent years, beautiful product, great stuff. But I mean, I was seeing prices in the low 2,000 to 3,000 for, let's take a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom to a 3, and now it's in the low 3,000s up to 4,000. Who's paying $4,000 a month to rent an apartment, no matter how nice it is? Who is able to do that among our workforce other than the highest levels? And so this is a problem, and this is indicative of an overall issue, which is the downside of a secondary market is it inflates things for our local residents. And so rental rates have been hugely inflated, and it's amazing that they could even get them. And so it puts problems into the economy for us, for sure.
And Bob and Brooke, something else that I've seen is actually some of the larger complexes, La Quinta and other locations, without mentioning specifically, they're actually starting to upgrade flooring and things like that. They're taking carpet out and they're bringing in higher end flooring to actually raise rents. So things that were actually maybe at a $1,400 or even $1,600 price point, when those people are moving out, they're upgrading those, and they're literally seeing price points in the $1,800, $1,900 for the same exact product. So across the board, I think we are definitely seeing rental price increase right along with housing price increases.
Was there something else that Brooke had? I forget now. She was talking about the rents.
She was asking about the rents, and she wanted to know where she could buy that copy of Coachella Valley-opoly.
Right.
I would love to get that too. That looks like a great game there.
I'm gonna make an offer. I'm gonna put a link up there, and everybody is gonna be buying the Coachella Valley-opoly game. It's pretty cool. On the front end of it, it has the living desert. It says that the Coachella Valley is the golf capital of the world. It's pretty fun to actually see all the different pieces and the things that are in there. So I'm glad you guys are excited about it. That's why I put it up there. I thought nothing better on a real estate show than to show Monopoly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, you know what, Bob, what do you think about what is going to happen in 2021? We've been talking about up until February. We've discussed a little bit about the increase in pricing. What's going to happen moving forward with interest rates, things in the economy for 2021, specifically the residential housing market? What is a prediction that you might have?
I think I'm after reviewing many different looks at it, including Leslie Appleton Young, the lead forecaster and economist with the California Association of Realtors, who looks at the state as a whole. I would say we'll probably be a little bit better off than the rest of California. She's predicting a 3% raise in prices, statewide. And so I think, again, because we're sheltered from the interest rate environment, which even if it does tick up a little bit, can hurt other areas more than ours. And then I think it's possible that we could see some foreclosure activity, although we're heading in a different direction in terms of vaccinations and the virus issues and reopenings coming. So I think it's less likely that foreclosures could cause a problem. Again, more supply, the new home building. So I'm going to take a flyer on it and say about 5%. Again, 22%, silliness, got lucky, but I think we're going to level off. I think it'll be somewhere in the 5%, prevailing numbers on a month-to-month basis as we look at 2022 compared to 2021.
Hey, with vaccines and everything coming on, sorry, Sean, with vaccines and everything coming online and available, are we going to see the way people are actually seeing houses change? In other words, right now, a lot of it's virtual. A lot of it's done through virtual, Zoom and other types of things and video. Are we going to go back to the day where people can go into the houses and open houses and start to see those things as we move through 2021, in your opinion?
I think we will. Again, it depends on these factors that are all out of our hands. The getting into the tiers, what the regulations are, the guidance, the comfort level of people to go do it. I mean, Craig, you and I have been walking around El Paseo a little bit in these last couple weekends, having a little lunch, and it sure looks like people are out there. So if people are willing to sit at Armando's with 40 people out on the sidewalk, I think they might be willing to walk around a home with a realtor. But anecdotally, I mean, we heard it. People were on Facebook Live being shown a house and whatever. But I mean, look, I don't want to denigrate it, because our realtors are fantastic. We've got so many superstar realtors in town here. And I would just say that I think they figured it out. And I think the results show that they know what they're doing. And we're selling every home we can basically put out there. So I think, look, when you're buying a home, you got to see it. You want to see it. Yes, there are stories about it. Let me give you an example. Something really interesting is my friends over at the Hideaway, Bob Ravis, the director of sales, was telling me that a typical year this time they would be at 40 lots available and 40 homes, right around there. And then in recent years, some people that built the old world, the Tuscan, the Spanish dark wood, and that kind of old world style, we'll call it, those houses were suffering because right down the street would be some incredible modern mid-century home that was built, and everyone wants that now. Even with that, they basically sold all the old world homes that were stagnating, that were worrying people about, could they sell that house? And now they're down again to, last time I talked, they were down to 7 lots and 7 homes available. So that kind of went out the window. And there were stories of people just, doing a Facebook Live, or not a Facebook Live, a
little FaceTime.
FaceTime. Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
And buying a house, saying, I'll take it. Cash offer. I'll send it in. So interesting stuff. I think, again, a prediction for the year ahead, I think less of that happens for obvious reasons.
I'm missing the open houses. That's one of the things that just as, for fun, to be able to check things out. It's something I personally really miss. You just don't see all the open houses signed like you would be right now, be able to, take even a Saturday and bring somebody along with you and take a look at different things. Most of it's being done via online and Zillow and other types of websites that are out there. It seems like the consumer's getting a lot smarter. Not that they're getting a lot smarter, but they seem to be educated going into things, knowing pricing, working with their agents to really get the contracts finalized and all the other things that go into buying that house. And the dynamics have definitely changed. I'm looking forward to open houses. So I'm predicting that we might be seeing more of that as time goes through in 2021, and a little bit of normalcy with regard to that. As you said, there's just so many people out and about. You're seeing it throughout all of Coachella Valley, and it does seem like people are willing to connect and gather and physically be connected, although there's a tremendous amount of social distancing still happening and still lots of restrictions.
So
what do you got for us, John?
Yeah, we got a couple things that came in. One, I just want to give everybody kind of a view of what's going on. So as people know, this is a special edition of GPS Insider with Leadership Coachella Valley, and we're also pushing this out with our class. And I want people to see we're pushing it out via
Zoom. Isn't that just fantastic? So we got a Zoom going on, cool. And you guys
were able to do all that. Yeah, we're able to do all that.
Fantastic.
So we got to thank technology, and that helped push me along the way. A couple things did come in. Oh, LCV was just waving there, so that's pretty awesome. A couple things came in. One of the class members is recommending, Craig, you should sell that Coachella Valley-Opoly game on your website. Maybe you need to have a merchandising tab there.
I'm going to do it.
As well as Jeff Jones, who is formerly with the Palm Springs Chamber. He's in the class now, but he mentioned that you can actually buy Palm Springs-Opoly in Palm Springs with the Chamber. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. I like it.
And then we just had I was just going to say we have a comment that came in too. This is from Lisa Sullivan. I've been trying to buy a house in the high desert since last year around this time and have been getting outbidded by cash buyers at least 15 times. Is there anything that you could speak to that, Bob or Craig?
High desert is firecracker hot. It just is. And that's my incredibly scientific take on it. I think for the same reasons, right? What's more rural than the high desert? What's more get away from the urban area than that? And then we know that tracking along is some significant environmental regulation, including adding the Joshua Tree to the endangered species list, which could basically shut down development up there. So here, I think the notion of extreme scarcity is potentially a factor in that for the high desert where it's not as much here.
Back to supply and demand. I know personally an individual who purchased a home 18 months ago in the Joshua Tree area for just a little over $300,000, got a cash offer for over $500,000, and that's 18 months. And they were willing to pay for the taxes and other things. So, you know, supply and demand is a big push and a big factor right now. And a lot of cash buyers out there does make it difficult for those that are, you know, trying to use a mortgage or loan to get in, and multiple offers complicates it that much more. So these things are going to continue for a while. Yes, Sean? We
have another question, or actually another comment. It's actually from Veronica Tapia, who's one of our class members. Comment is regarding consumers getting smarter. I just saw a realtor post last night that requiring sellers to remove contingencies is becoming a negotiation tool. Contingencies, that's some pretty big deal stuff. You know, that could be your AC unit, that could be, you know, or even contingent on selling a property before you list or buy a property, right? So do you have anything that you'd like to share on that, Bob?
I think it's just indicative of this general situation. It would be, so you're saying that the buyers would be willing to buy the house even if something is, you know, does not make it through the inspection? Is that what the issue is?
It says, I just saw a realtor post last night that requires sellers to remove contingencies, and that's becoming a negotiation tool.
Yeah, so within real estate, you know, you're going to have several different contingencies going into contract. One might be a property inspection. One might be a loan contingency, appraisal contingencies. These are things that sellers, buyers specifically, are asking sellers to provide to them to support the price and make sure that the property is what they are expecting. However, to be more competitive, you might reduce a contingency such as a loan or even an appraisal on a property, which would make you, the buyer, a little bit more, the seller would be more interested because there's a higher likelihood that that particular transaction is going to go through. So for sure, contingencies are a part of something that sellers, you know, we enter into contracts, and a lot of times, you know, they were 30 and 45 days. Many of these are now being reduced. Contingencies are being removed faster, maybe 10 or 15 days. So contingency has always been a part of a real estate transaction. And of course, if you remove them, and in the contract, that's a part of what, if you get a loan, then that contingency is removed. But if you're not even getting the loan initially, then that wouldn't even be a part of it or a contingency in that contract. So for sure.
Do you want to talk about retail and on the commercial side, Craig? Do we want to get into? Do we want to switch
Yeah, I
gears
think we should
if there aren't
shift.
any
We've
more
been about
questions
halfway
on
through.
residential?
Yeah, we've been discussing residential and on the commercial side of things, Bob. It's kind of interesting because what do you feel like the impact with people not, they're at home now, or they're doing commuting, virtual commuting, some sort of hybrid. Is this impacting our business retail space? And also, what has been going on in the commercial side for retail in general, like our malls and that type of thing? Can you speak on commercial overall?
Sure. I think on the retail side, let's take a look if we just throw in a little analysis, because I think again it's such an incredibly important economic driver. The retail sales has tracked in the last 10 years in this region, somewhere around the $6 billion per year basis. So $6 billion in retail sales, and that's tangible goods. Okay, it doesn't total taxable sales even higher, which includes some use taxes and so forth, but goods and services, tangible things that you can touch, restaurant sales, general merchandise, all those things. Last year, we have data only through the first 3 quarters, which is much better than it used to be. So data analysis has gotten better, and so we have more information sooner. And so we look through the latest is third quarter of 2020. Okay, and so total retail sales were down 12.6%. That equates to roughly $500 million down through that portion of the year. But the third quarter was up 1.5%. I've always looked at the third quarter as being extremely important as an indicator of the health of our local economy because it's less impacted by visitors. So visitors are in these numbers. And we have millions and millions that come here every year and spend money right in that wheelhouse of taxable sales. So you can say, all right, well, maybe it was trending better. And then how did the government stimulus payments impact it? But I just wanted to give everyone a frame of reference. So it's a $6 billion market, down $500 million. So you can start thinking about, all right, when you see economic impacts of things like the Coachella and Stagecoach music festivals, and you think, oh my gosh, how much do these people spend, and did that evaporate? Well, we lost about $500 million through the third quarter. And if you look at the national figures, like I have, the holiday season was not good nationally. We had the shutdowns right after Thanksgiving again. And so I think we tracked through, probably had a bad fourth quarter. So let's say we're down $700 million for the region compared to 2019. I mean, obviously that's a big deal. Those are jobs that we've lost. That's tax that goes to the cities that pays for all the city services that we enjoy and benefit from. And so that's a general frame on it. But generally, retail sales, no one here is surprised at all by what's going on lately, of course, in terms of online sales. And so it only exacerbated online sales, especially the Amazons of the world. And so, we saw the transition. The fortunate part is several years ago that there was a change in that local jurisdictions would get the normal tax increment that they would get if someone bought something, let's say downtown Palm Springs, the city still gets it if they decided to buy it at home. So that's why we're holding reasonably good. And then let me give you another perspective on it, just to set the table on retail, which portends what we might see in terms of the commercial real estate side of it on the retail. As I look back at the Great Recession, and the worst year was 2008 in terms of retail sales in the Valley. And so at that point, in 2008, retail sales were down $600 million more than they were in 2020 through the first 3 quarters. And so we made it through the Great Recession and bounced back and got healthy again, but it took a long time. And it's because of mostly the financial crisis and what we saw happening with the buyers of homes, that they got into places they couldn't afford. They had foreclosures, they ruined their credit, and it impacted everybody, and it put huge downward pressure on retail sales. And so I guess if we're going to something positive to take away from being down 12.5%, last year, basically, compared to 2019, I think that's a good takeaway. Is the Great Recession was much worse, and stores were open. Okay, we shut stores down. We shut down hotels. We didn't have visitors coming in the way they normally do, and we still did significantly better than we did during the Great Recession. So I wanted everyone to have that kind of a framework, again, since we're talking about economic drivers here in the Coachella Valley. And so then I guess the next step is, what are we seeing in terms of retailing as a sector in the region?
I have a couple questions about downtown Palm Springs specifically. The pandemic, quite a few projects prior. We've had, lots of growth in downtown Palm Springs with the hotels and different projects. But we also saw some major projects not be completed. Are we seeing new developers picking up these projects and finishing them? Do we think they're going to be finished, or will these buildings be left unconstructed, first of all? And then secondly, how are things like the new stadium, $277 million, 300,000 square foot stadium being built out there by the Desert Classic Club out there near Palm Desert? How are we going to see more of these types of things being built around events and stuff like that? And I'm thinking long term, over the next year, 2, 3, 5, will that type of commercial business be coming into our market space? So 2 different questions for you.
Yeah, let's take the first one. Let me give you an example. The what's been referred to as the Andaz project in Palm Springs, right in the downtown. And so anyone who lives in Palm Springs who's been there in a while, we've seen this eyesore, and the city has been miserable about it, giving extensions to the former developer. But it was bought by a very strong company based out of Dallas. I talked to them just last week. They asked me not to reveal, because I did get a tip on what's going to happen with that hotel, but I'm telling you, it looks amazing. They sent me some renderings. They showed me that it's going to transition to a different brand, and I think it's a knockout. If you've been to the top of the Kimpton, which is a fantastic place to hang out, this makes that look. Well, let's not hurt the Kimpton. Kimpton's great, but this makes
the Kimpton look like a boutique hotel. Let's just put it that way, compared to what's being built or what
it's going to be fantastic. And the money's there. They're going to move forward to it. We'll be seeing an announcement soon. So that's just one. But I think what we always find in any market, any economy, again, much, much worse in the Great Recession, is new money comes in. So, my son and I are driving down the street sometimes, and he'll say, boy, that restaurant will be gone forever, won't it? And I'll say, no, someone else will come in and benefit from the tenant improvements. And Craig, you've been out and covered the Babalu in Palm Desert, right? And we see that it's been reopening and so forth, and it looked terrible, and it was stagnant for a long time, but someone came in and bought it. And so the fact that we've got massive companies, I mean, the Apollo Group, one of the largest venture capital organizations in the United States, BlackRock, and so forth, have already made investments in this region. It's just going to continue. And look, they're monster organizations. They have deep pockets. They're looking at things in a 20, 30-year window, when we're looking at it in a 1 year or a quarterly basis. They're looking at long term. And so they're going to come in and strike and buy things. So that's on that side. Projects that might be delayed or deferred, I think we're going to see some of them come alive with deeper pockets, which is great for all of us. Not so good if you own the strip center, for example, where the major tenant was a grocery store or a gym that was suffering. And if you were an individual owner, a lot of people have really, really suffered as owners of centers throughout the valley, while others that are major national companies that are real estate investment trusts, REITs, that own some of these properties have been able to be more flexible with the tenants, and everyone has been able to most have been able to make it through. And so we're seeing those kind of dynamics going.
Hey, Sean, I see. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I was going to say we've got about 4 more minutes with our students, the Leadership Coachella Valley class. We like to say that they're the best class ever. Well, I'll tell you, this is the longest class ever. They started in 2020. But their last question and their comments, and Janella Andrews, our treasurer for the board, has asked us, and I'm kind of curious about it too. Can we end on the Amazon distribution center? Amazon come to the desert. Can you give us a little bit of detail about that? And I only know we only got about 4 minutes, but can you share about that a little bit?
I'm going to jump in
Sure.
real quick.
Yeah.
Hold on
Yeah.
just a second, Bob.
It's
Hold on just a second. I'm going to jump in real quick and let you guys know that you can go over to maraintel.com, and there's a great article about that distribution center. And of course, I'm very excited in the digital world, and we're seeing obviously e-commerce, Amazon moving into, I think what was Sam's Club, used to be a Sam's Club in Cathedral City, getting approval to put an actual distribution center in there 24/7. That's going to be open around the clock and all about e-commerce. So sorry to step on you, Bob, but I'll give it to you now.
Yeah, I think I look at it from both sides because so we're seeing 152 jobs I think have been announced, but the thing is, the facility has been vacant for 16 years. So now we've got 152 jobs slated, $15 an hour on average with benefits and so forth. Those are positive things, of course. But this is really a center that's meant to be for the last mile. It's kind of like broadband, right? The last mile. We can take fiber and deploy it in a given region, but then it's really what matters is getting it to the homes and the businesses. And so this is an Amazon last mile situation, which means incredible amounts of goods will be driven by truck on roads throughout the Coachella Valley, in and out of it. And so people can go and return things and pick things up, but most of the traffic will be huge amounts of trucks coming through the valley. And I've seen I can't count how many projects I've seen throughout the valley been attacked because of CO2 and trucks coming through in massive numbers. And so there are two sides to this, and but it's taking a facility that was languishing and repositioning it, to say the least.
Hey, I want to take a quick second to just say thank you to the leadership Coachella Valley for joining us. You can always tune into CoachellaValley.com, latest articles and information that are there, and Mara Intel as well. Always talking about economic drivers on his site, and I think he has a special offer. I don't know if we're going to put that offer out there real quick before everybody goes, maybe, and go from there.
Yeah, sure. I'll through Sean, I'll be giving a comp code for my GPS Economic Monitor newsletter, and I'll provide that for you for 3 issues. It comes out twice a month, and you can take a look at it. A lot of good data in there, and so I'm happy to extend that to all members of the Leadership Coachella Valley class.
And for you guys that are watching on Facebook Live, I'm still working on, Bob. We're going to come up with some special stuff for you guys as well, because let me tell you why. I'm interested in getting that insider newsletter into as many people's hands as possible, because it's so rich with the details and the information and the statistics and the things that really go behind these numbers that is so invaluable. And so I'd love to be able to offer that to more people throughout the Coachella Valley. It's just such a great resource. So, hey, Sean, I really appreciate it. We're going to keep you around for just a little bit, even though you might lose your friends, and complete our show here. Yep. We are GPS Business Insider. This is a weekly show here from Palm Desert, and I'm with Bob Mara, my co-host with Mara Intel, and I'm Craig Campbell for CoachellaValley.com. So, hey, Bob, we were talking commercial, before. I mentioned that stadium that's about to be built, $277 million, 300,000 square foot stadium was going to be in Palm Springs, and they decided to move it, I think, to a much better location off the freeway. But I'm wondering, how many more of these types of things do we see on the horizon? Are there going to be big event centers and things like that? Maybe some of these retail spaces that are empty might be converting to more distribution centers or the like. So
I think, look, this arena is an incredible thing for our region, I think, by any stretch, right? So it's new money brought into the area. They're taking a giant risk. It's privately funded. I read an article recently, and a couple different ones, where there was some challenge to, is it really a big economic benefit to our region because a lot of these stadium projects don't pan out. Well, the latter part is a stadium project that's subsidized by taxpayers, where a team might say, look, we need a new stadium. Look, this happened in San Diego, right? And it ended up resulting in the taxpayers rarely happens where they say, you know what? No, we'll just take the team away. If you want to, if you say you're going to take the team away because taxpayers decline, adding $100 million to the cost of construction so that you can benefit a private NFL team, take it. And they did. They went to Los Angeles. And so I agree with that. These things rarely pan out, even over time, where it's actually a good investment for taxpayers. This this arena is nothing like that. It's a 277 million, I think you said, number. I think I've seen 250 to 275-ish, whatever, investment. It's a pure bet by them and an investment in them. So bring it.
A private group putting it together, not utilizing the tax dollars like you said. And that's a great project.
It's an amazing project. I can't wait to see how this unfolds, to have an NHL affiliate. Back when I first got to the desert was the first year that the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels baseball team had moved their minor league AAA team to Lake Elsinore. I was so upset, because I as I was planning to make my move here, I thought, man, that's one thing I'll be looking forward to doing. I'll go to as many of those Angels games as possible because AAA. You'll see those players a month away,
right there in that Palm Springs Stadium. The power.
You'll see it right there, and then a month later they might be playing for the major league team. This is what happens with hockey. So my son and I have gone up to Ontario to see the Ontario Reign AHL team, and the one night we went, the most recent time we went, back before when it was still fans. They were just announcing and showing highlights of one of their players who had scored a goal in his first game for the Los Angeles Kings the night before. So exciting stuff. So I think the hockey side would be great. The Canadians, I mean, we have so many Canadians here that I think they won't be able to help themselves but to buy tickets and go to that arena. And then the entertainment.
Then you got Live Nation is going to be putting events in there, and that's going to be exciting as well. What do you think about, I know we're digressing a bit, but what's your sense about Coachella, Stagecoach, some of these big festivals that we have out here? Are they coming back? Are they going to be the same? What's your feeling about that, Bob?
First of all, I hope they bring them back exactly the way they were, because they're obviously incredibly important to our region. Not just from an economic impact standpoint, but from a whole generational shift in terms of the way people, young people, view this region. And so I certainly hope so. I really couldn't predict. One thing I know from having been the CEO of what's now the American Express PGA Tour event in La Quinta for a number of years is that you can't just flip a switch and no one's going to call and say, how are we doing with the scaffolding and the wood and the towers that we need to build it? And so when you look at Coachella and Stagecoach, what they need dwarfs what that PGA Tour event needed. And we started, maybe we took a little vacation time and slowed down a little bit, but right after we were working on logistics and suppliers and bidding things out for all of the things we needed for the next year. So you got to remember that you can't flip a switch. And this is why we've just seen the Variety magazine article that's saying sources told them that it's not going to even happen in October, which is no surprise at all, because again, the supply chain of things that have to happen. And so then, might we be looking at 2022 in the spring? I would just think that, and I've heard people say, it might never come back because of this reason and that reason. I think there's an incredible amount of money on a net profit basis that AEG has made off of that. And so I think if there's a way to do it, they'll figure it out, and they have every financial incentive as a public company to go and make these things happen again, all just determined by what the virus does to us.
Bob, I have two people that I know right now that are building huge, I say huge, 50, 70,000 square foot event centers, smaller event centers made for 500 people, weddings, those types of things, bands, putting studios in them. And I know of two. I'm sure there's plenty more that are starting to, realize that this is a place that music is going to be played, and a lot of people are wanting to come out here and enjoy. We talked about planners. We talked about just the industry, the group industry that comes out here, that conventions, businesses, all kinds of things. It seems to me with the Convention and Visitors Bureau or the Convention Center still shut down, it's giving more opportunity for some of these smaller ideas and venues to show up. I think that's a trend. I think it's going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, look, the convention center could host a meeting for 35 people if they wanted, because they have smaller space and they can reconfigure things. I think, but I'm glad you brought this up because it's a really big deal right now, and it's another one of these California things where we can be a little bit annoyed with our state in terms of being really good at encouraging businesses to go elsewhere. And so this is public policy. It's not my decision or my thing to decide. But what I do know is that our Convention and Visitors Bureau and hundreds of bureaus like them throughout the state of California and major hotel operators that are in the group business. And so when we say group, what's group business? It's anything from a private company has a meeting with 100 people and they're doing an offsite and they take down some space at a downtown at the Kimpton or something, and they have a meeting, all the way to conventions that have maybe 2,000-3,000 delegates and what those people do. And so what we're finding is there are no specific guidelines for this group business, and there's no timetable within current tiers for them to be able to have the guidance they need to be able to tell meeting planners, again, this thing that we're talking about with the music festivals, enough to give them enough lead time to be able to make plans. And so what happens is meeting planners are planning meetings. There was a recent study done by a major media outlet in this sector that cited 81% of meeting planners indicated that at some point in 2021, this year, that they will host a group meeting. And then 60% of them said that they would do it in probably starting late summer to fall. And so right now, we're not able to take that business. Our hotels, our Convention and Visitors Bureau are not able to book it because they can't give a meeting planner certainty. So who could? Oh, how about Las Vegas? I even saw a Facebook ad of the city of Las Vegas. Were they trying to sell me a room at the Wynn? No, it was an ad saying, bring your conference here, bring your convention, bring your group business. Arizona is now, we'll use the term, eating our lunch. Texas and Florida. So they're saying, you're welcome, come in. We've got the capacity. And I'm told by people in the industry that, they've got, it's the nature of the business is that they can set it up so that it's socially distanced and safe. Think about it, what we call a hollow square type of meeting format and so forth, that they can do it. But bottom line is we're losing out now every single day. What did I have? Something like 380,000 room nights have been lost because of group business going dark on our region. And that would probably happen anywhere. But going forward, now we're starting to lose business that we could have. We need guidance for this region, for that sector. Have to have it.
Hey, Bob, we've been talking for about an hour. I think this might be a great place to stop. And don't forget, I'm going to be on the sidelines at Shadow Hills later today, about 7 o'clock kickoff, because we have contact sports at the high school level at Desert Sands Unified School District. We're in Tier Red, which means that we have our restaurants are open and things are opening all over the place, including our movie theaters. I'm kind of looking forward to that. You guys have been watching a special edition of GPS Insider. We've also been talking to the leadership, Coachella Valley. That was very fun, and appreciate Sean being able to bring us into that. And hey, Sean, are you still out there? See you one more time before we say goodbye.
He's got a class to run.
Yeah, I know, but he has to turn us off.
Well, I could find all kinds of ways to bore people with facts and figures. But yeah, so what else are you doing, Craig? You're going to hit the Shadow Hills game.
That's right.
Tonight.
That's right. We're going to preview live, actually, on the sidelines. Maybe have an opportunity to talk with the athletic director, Michael Walsh, over there at Shadow Hills. Maybe some of the coaches, and in general, just show what it's like to attend a high school sporting event. I don't think there's spectators yet at these events.
So, yeah.
But it's pretty exciting to the kids and the athletes in general, all the way up to the superintendents. Everybody has been so thrilled about school opening up. K through 5 opened up at Desert Sands Unified School District on Monday. That was quite spectacular. We're looking at
Saw you
March
out there.
20.
That was cool, man. That was exciting. They were so excited, fired up, and ready to go. And it's like, oh, can we just get life a little bit closer to normal? So it was cool. You did some great capture of what was happening as the school buses were going, and what the principal said. You know, the hair was standing up on his arms. He had goosebumps because seeing the kids back. So these stories are great, and your coverage of them are awesome. I'll tell you,
Thank you.
I would, if I had to pay like $25 each for me and my son to go to that game just to watch it. I know why there's no spectators yet, but wouldn't it be fun to see a high school football game
I
right
can't
now?
wait. I mean, I can't
It'd
wait.
be
I
awesome.
coach high school football, and I am going to be so excited to be on the sidelines. You know, one of the benefits I get, of course, to be wearing a mask the entire time, very
Yeah,
limited access, but we'll be there. And so if you guys want to tune in around 7 o'clock at the Facebook channel here, you'll see football in action. And during halftime, I think I'm even going to be interviewed along with some of the other sportscasters about our feeling for Ventura Sands Unified School District, and just give our take being there on the sideline. So I think that's going to be
Cool.
very exciting. Hey,
What's
I'm
hot
gonna
on?
take a
What's
walk.
happening on music? What's happening this week? What should I get ready to watch Saturday night? What do you got? Anything
Well,
lined
you
up
know,
yet?
I don't know necessarily specifically right now, but you know, you got quite a few areas. You got the Nest that's 20, you know, that's 7 days a week. You already mentioned Babalu. You know, you could go downtown Palm Springs, the Village. You could go to Roadhouse. There are so many different locations now. Vicky's at Santa Fe's got jazz. You got music. You got DJs that are playing outside of Kitchen 86. You got the Rock Yard, of course, with the casinos, which are open. Music is everywhere out here, and it's becoming more prevalent with us being in Tier 2. We're really seeing some ingenious setups. You know, people are changing parking lots into actual stadiums almost, or event centers, and so on and so on. So stay tuned to CoachellaValley.com. Of course, take a look at our Facebook, Instagram, and everything else, Twitter, and we'll constantly be putting out events. And I know you're going to give me a call later and ask me specifically. What's the hot
You're the
show?
guy, man. No one knows more about what's going on around here than you. Absolutely nobody. So you're kind of like the social director of the region. You know,
Well,
so
I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate the tips. I appreciate the tips on, you know, what's good, what's not, what's happening, and all the way back to when you were walking around the Westfield Mall in the summer, and I
That's
was
true.
sitting there watching
When it
it, going,
opened
"Oh
up.
my gosh, what does it look like over there?" So
I know.
pretty
Hey,
cool.
there
There
he
he
is.
is.
Hey,
So I got
Sean, thank
something
you
to
so much.
got something to share. So backstage with Indian Wells Tennis Gardens, Rolf Hohen just shared that they should find out by mid of April, about a potential tennis tournament in the fall, with also tennis tournament in March as planned.
So a
Possibly,
second tennis tournament that might be
possibly one in
entered in.
November and one in March. So
There
I'm
you
going to
go.
get back
Breaking
here, but I
news.
just want to give you guys that scoop.
Breaking
That's
news
cool.
right there.
I
Hey,
love
on
it.
that, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you guys so much that are watching on Facebook right now. Sean Webb, thank you so much for all the help and support. And Bob, we're going to be doing this again next week and tuning up,
That's great.
and we'll be talking to you guys about the economic drivers, market intelligence, and the things going on throughout the Coachella Valley. So
Good stuff.
till
Thanks,
next
Craig.
time.
Awesome.
Till next time, Craig Campbell for CoachellaValley.com.